Hi everyone, today let's talk about Starbucks. Then we'll look at fear and greed, as well as Max Payne. Then we'll get into the charts. Then we'll look at my results for the day and my thoughts going into the Monday session. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So Starbucks Union says about 150 stores are going to strike over Pride decor. They say that they're not being allowed to post their LGBT support in their stores and that they're going to strike because of this. This has become quite a hot button issue on the economic side. Companies like Anheuser-Busch are struggling to sell beer because of their support of LGBT things, whereas the consumers of these products are not necessarily supporting those things in the same way that these companies are trying to. And it does seem like Starbucks is now caught between these two groups. Do they support their union and allow them to put these things up at the potential risk of making their consumers a little bit less happy, and therefore they do consume less Starbucks going forward? We've already seen the effects of this, like I mentioned with Anheuser-Busch. Target also experienced some of these effects, and it does seem like there's quite an adversarial relationship between these two groups, and that does make it difficult in terms of making money. Which group do you appease? I think the best option is generally to stay away from both groups in this point. Don't support or ban any of these things, and try to stay off of either group's radar in order to make the most money from an economic perspective, but the latest victim here looks like Starbucks. Moving over to fear and greed, we did come out of extreme greed. We're down to 74 here now. Still very much in greed right at the top of it. It does seem like we're going to dip a little bit. You can see where we were generally in extreme fear a year ago. That was very close to the all-time lows, which was here in October. You can see the June, July lows. There was a pretty decent dip in that area, and then we had a nice rally into the August highs, as well as the October lows. Now we're pretty well extended here from the 125-day moving average, indicating some extreme greed in the markets. Stock price strength, also generally an extreme greed. Put to call ratio, they say, is an extreme greed as well. Does seem to be ticking up towards puts at least a little bit here in the short term, but overall generally everything is either in greed or extreme greed besides the volatility index. Moving over to Max Payne for the end of the week, you can see we finished at around 433 right here at the bottom of the calls, which is a very different finish than what we've been seeing. We've been finishing up around the top of the puts here recently, and now we're down at the bottom of the calls. We're still being held up by this big put wall at 430, decent numbers here, 432 and 433, but we're definitely at a more normalized range, finishing in the middle of these two peaks versus right at the top of the puts. So we'll definitely keep an eye on this going forward, but it seems like we're back in a more normalized finishing zone going into the end of each week. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps here on the hour and the daily. This looks much weaker than it has here recently. You can see we're below all the EMAs and SMAs here on the hourly chart at the close, finding a little bit of support into the end of day, but definitely looks very weak. A little bit of volume at the end of the day, also slightly bullish on that volume, which is interesting. Looking at daily momentum, still bearish. RSI also showing bearish signs. Looking at the 21 EMA down at 428 for Monday, looking to get into that zone and potentially get a bounce from that area. Then we start looking for that double top or a lower high. We haven't really had the bounce. I thought we would get a continuation from yesterday into today, start to establish that reversal pattern here on the daily chart, but we ended up gapping lower and going lower. Realistically, I would like to see this get back into this zone, double top, fill this gap, and then we start to see a bigger sell-off. Moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis. We came down right to my level yesterday, bounced strongly off that level. I thought we were going to get the continuation above my 365 level. We didn't get that rally. We gapped below it, came back, tested there, then rejected. And today you can see we got a higher low setup right into the end of the day. Big bearish volume right at the end, which is interesting. But as long as we stay above this 55 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, which is at that 360.71 level, then we should be looking for that topping pattern or a continuation, waiting to see which one we get. Momentum, fairly neutral. It's bearish, but it's moving back towards bullish. RSI, very close to that midpoint here, not giving us a lot of information. Still waiting to see if this is a bounce from the 55, and then we get a continuation or topping pattern, or if we're just going to go straight down from here. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see the Russell is selling off here again today. We got below 183.28, which is not what you wanted to see. I was hoping this level would hold and then we'd get a little bit of a bounce from here. Shouldn't really have expected that because we were below all of these shorter term EMAs. Now we're looking at the 144 and this 179.17 level. If that breaks, then we're definitely in for a much lower move into these previous consolidation areas. Right now, this could still be a bigger pullback, support at these longer term EMAs and SMAs, and then we get the continuation higher. But if this continues to fall, that could be pretty bad. Pretty big volume on that down move here today, which typically means continuation, but sometimes it can signify kind of the capitulation ending type move, and then you start to see buyers come in at this zone. I still think 179.17 is going to be the bigger level, and you can see that level being established here at the beginning of June as well, so I'd like to see a bounce from here. Otherwise, looking at the Dow, very similar, below all the EMAs and SMAs on the short term, hitting that 200 SMA today. Found some support in that zone. We're below that trend line, looking at 335.91 to the downside. Moving over to Apple and Tesla. Apple threw a wick, establishing a new higher high. Couldn't hold that level though, and then we kind of broke back into this previous range for yesterday's close. Still a bullish trend, but losing momentum. Tesla, on the other hand, got below my 164.68 level after getting just above it yesterday, selling off here today. Looking at the 55 EMA now for support down at 248.70. Moving over to staples and discretionary, you can see staples fell, got below 74, still looks okay. 55 could hold and we could still see a bounce from here. Discretionary, on the other hand, this looks like a top at this point. We've chopped sideways, we're below 168.78 again. Looks like we're getting ready to sell off down to the 55. If that breaks, then we have a pretty big move down to this 153.90 area, similar to what we're seeing on the IWM right now. Moving over to the dollar here, you can see we found some more legs coming off of this double bottom, rallied up to 102.98, rejected from that level, and we're selling off a little bit, which is interesting. But momentum here on the daily chart, ticking back towards bullish, RSI also moving back towards bullish, and the dollar is showing more strength after this rally that we saw through May. If we get a continuation and a higher high here on the dollar, that will trigger lower prices in equities in my opinion, which does correlate kind of with what we're seeing across the major markets. Moving over to JNK and TLT. JNK breaking down massive, big gap down, big sell-off, well below 91. Looking down to these previous lows around 90.27. Does not look good at all, signaling lower lows. Treasuries rallying a little bit, people moving into security, bullish momentum, bullish RSI, and does look pretty good going up to these previous highs around that 105 to 107 area. Moving over to the volatility indices, you can see move selling off again. Not doing much in this zone at this point. Still downtrend. VIX, on the other hand, showed a reversal candle setup, so we had a big red bar yesterday. Inside day here today, and if we get the spike up on Monday, that could be the signal for some much lower prices to come. We're still in a downtrend, and we haven't hit that longer term support that I was watching at 1177 yet. But this is interesting, showing that reversal setup on weak momentum, RSI showing like it could turn more bullish going into Monday and Tuesday of next week. Moving over to my accounts, you can see I did not do very well. I was bullish going into the day and we had some pretty decent sell-offs. I had some calls to help protect, so I didn't lose too much money, definitely not more than the markets. You can see the IWM was down more than 1%. And I was slightly protected here. I'm still in a covered call, sold a 181 call for Monday for another 57 cents for a little bit of protection. Qs, I have one put at 362 going into Monday, and then I have several calls here protecting me to the downside. 2 363s, 1 364, and 1 365 here. Overall, pretty neutral, but still have some covered calls, looking for some bullish movements into the Monday session. Again, if my support levels break, I will be taking these positions off. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of these companies getting too involved in social or political issues, or if they should just focus on making money. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.